I can't imagine he's been to the grocery store anytime lately, so he, probably never bought a box of cereal in a long, long time. Look, the integrity of our elections is critical, and it's an important issue. I support voter ID. I think if you have
to vote, not to buy cereal.
Not to buy cereal, to buy a box of wine and to vote, you should have an ID. I think that's important. But here's the thing. We do need to make sure the integrity of our elections are intact. We have not seen widespread evidence of voter fraud and people doing things in an illegal process. But what we have had in Florida is some of the deadlines haven't been met. Especially in Palm Beach and Broward County, they haven't fully reported the number of votes they came in. So that is an important issue. But that does not mean there's been widespread voter fraud. So I think that the validity of the concerns that we have sometimes get lost in some of these outlandish things.
Look, after the last election, there was a bipartisan commission on voting. And those recommendations were that states needed to upgrade their voting systems, that there actually was no widespread voting fraud. And many states have taken up the challenge and some states haven't. And honestly, the truth is that the states that haven't taken up the challenge of doing the most voting reform are states led by Republican secretaries.
Just to put a final point on the whole hat stuff and the cereal stuff, it's laughable. I don't know if it's funny. It's laughable, which is why we've had some fun with it. And it gets to the president's mindset, which I'm not a psychologist, but the people who come to me and say they have the biggest concerns about what's going on in his head aren't elected officials. It's the national security types and the people who deal with diplomacy who say they get concerned that he'll play one of these cereal games in an area that matters on national security.
Well, of course, and we're already seeing that he is refuting the New York Times reporting on North Korea. So North Korea, this is just one example, that there's surveillance, national security surveillance of North Korea beefing up some of their nuclear sites. And the president yesterday or 2 days ago called it fake news. And so already we are seeing some real world examples.
And the other thing going on, by the way, that may be affecting his mood isn't just...
CNN political commentator, dead at 58. Alice Stewart, a political commentator for CNN who worked for several Republican presidential campaigns, has died, the cable news outlet reported on Saturday. She was 58. Law enforcement officials told CNN that Stewart's body was found outdoors in a Northern Virginia neighborhood. Police said no foul play was suspected and believed that Stewart suffered a medical emergency. Alice was a very dear friend and colleague to all of us at CNN. Mark Thompson, the network's CEO, said in an email to staff Saturday. A political veteran and an Emmy Award-winning journalist who brought an incomparable spark to CNN's coverage, known across our bureaus not only for her political savvy, but for her unwavering kindness. Our hearts are heavy as we mourn such an extraordinary loss. Stewart was born on March 11, 1966, in Atlanta. Stewart started her career as a local reporter and producer in Georgia before moving to Little Rock, Arkansas to be a news anchor, she told Harvard International Review. She went on to serve as the communications director in then Arkansas Gov. Mike Huckabee's office before assuming a similar role for his presidential run in 2008. She also served as the communications director for the 2012 presidential bids of former Minnesota Representative Michelle Bachmann and then former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum, also a former CNN commentator. Most recently, Stewart was the communications director for Texas Senator Ted Cruz's 2016 campaign. CNN hired Stewart as a political commentator ahead of the 2016 election, and she appeared on air frequently to provide insight on the political news of the day, including as recently as Friday on The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer,